The colonies fell in silence one by one. No warnings, no diplomatic overtures, no mercy, just quiet destruction that rippled across subspace channels as terrified messages from doomed outposts. Commander Thiel Voss stood aboard the UNES Dauntless, watching the holographic display with clenched fists as another colony winked out of existence. Proxima Centauri Station, 20,000 souls gone. "That's the seventh this week," whispered Lieutenant Ilara Kadu, her voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's systems. Her indigo eyes remained fixed on the display, tracking the expansion of debris where a thriving human settlement had existed only moments before. Throughout human history, mankind had clawed its way to the stars with stubborn determination. When Earth began to falter under the weight of climate change and resource depletion, humanity's scattered children among the stars had become its salvation. Each colony represented not just human ingenuity, but hope. Pockets of civilization, flourishing across 27 systems. Now they were being systematically extinguished. "The Vrexian fleet is maintaining position at the edge of the Tau Ceti system," reported Lieutenant Kadu. "No movement toward Earth yet." Commander Voss nodded grimly. "They're playing with us, watching how we react." The Vrexians had appeared, without warning 6 months ago. An advanced species with technology centuries beyond humanity's capabilities. They immediately established superiority through casual demonstrations of overwhelming force. Their ships, massive crystalline structures that bent light around them, could traverse vast distances almost instantly, making conventional defense strategies obsolete. "What does High Command say?" asked Voss. "Nothing new. Maintain position. Observe, don't engage." Kadu's voice carried tightly controlled anger. "While they obliterate everything we've built beyond Sul." The bridge fell silent. The Dauntless, one of Earth's most advanced warships, was little more than an observer in this methodical slaughter. Its weapons would barely scratch the Vrexian vessels. Its shields would collapse in seconds under their strange energy weapons. "Incoming transmission," announced the communications officer, Petty Officer Maz Orivan. "It's different." "Different how?" Voss asked. "It's coming from Helios Station, but it's not on any standard frequency. It's using quantum entanglement channels we didn't know they had." "Put it through." The display flickered, revealing the gaunt face of Dr. Leora Nex, Earth's leading quantum physicist who had transferred to Helios Station 2 years ago to pursue research too dangerous for Earth itself. "Commander Voss," she said, her voice breaking with urgency, "I need to speak to Earth Command immediately. I've found something." "Dr. Nex, we thought Helios went dark days ago. We're on emergency protocols. The Vrexians destroyed our primary systems, but missed the subterranean labs." Her eyes darted nervously. "Listen carefully. The attacks aren't random. They're targeting specific research facilities across all colonies. They know what we've discovered." "What are you talking about?" Voss leaned forward. "The Lazarus Theorem. It's real." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "We've confirmed that human consciousness operates on quantum principles. When properly stimulated, the mind can manipulate reality at the subatomic level. The Vrexians have been watching us for centuries, Commander. They're destroying the colonies because they fear what we're about to become." The communication abruptly dissolved into static. "Get her back," Voss ordered, but Orivan was already frantically working the controls. "I can't, sir. The quantum channel is gone." In that moment, the sensors blared warnings. 3 Vrexian warships had suddenly appeared in orbit around Helios Station. "They found her," whispered Kadu. Voss watched helplessly as brilliant energy lanced from the alien vessels, carving Helios Station into fragments. But just before the station's destruction, their sensors detected an unusual energy surge. Something new, something powerful, something distinctly human. 36 hours after Helios Station's destruction, the UNES Dauntless received encrypted orders directly from Fleet Admiral Rhysanda Thorne. The message was brief. Return to Earth immediately. Protocol Lazarus initiated. The trip back to Earth took 4 days. 4 days during which 3 more colonies fell to Vrexian attacks. Commander Voss spent those days reviewing Dr. Nex's previous research publications, searching for clues about the Lazarus theorem she had mentioned in her final transmission. "You won't find anything specific in the public records," said Lieutenant Kadu, finding Voss in his quarters surrounded by holographic research papers. "Not if the Vrexians are targeting this research specifically. It would have been classified." "Then why name it? Why call it Lazarus?" Voss pushed aside a floating document with a swipe of his hand. "Biblical reference. Lazarus rose from the dead," Kadu said, leaning against the doorframe. "Resurrection. Rebirth. Or awakening something dormant," Voss murmured. When the Dauntless finally reached Earth, they were directed to an orbital facility that didn't appear on any official registry. The Hyperion platform hung in geosynchronous orbit over the North Atlantic, its structure surprisingly antiquated compared to modern installations. Admiral Thorne personally greeted Voss and Kadu when they docked. A towering figure with metallic, grey eyes that matched his close-cropped hair, Thorne had been fighting for increased military funding for decades, warning of potential extraterrestrial threats. "I wish I could say, 'I told you so,' under better circumstances," Thorne said grimly, as they walked through corridors that looked decades old. This facility was built 70 years ago, when the first indications of the Lazarus effect were discovered. "What exactly is it, sir?" Voss asked. Thorne led them into a vast chamber dominated by a circular platform surrounded by quantum computers and strange apparatus. In the center stood a slender woman with auburn hair streaked with silver, adjusting settings on what appeared to be medical equipment. "Commander Voss, Lieutenant Kadu, meet Dr. Indra Valtar, Dr. Nex's mentor and the original discoverer of the Lazarus effect." Dr. Valtar looked up, her amber eyes piercing. "Dr. Nex was my best student. Her sacrifice won't be in vain." "What exactly is the Lazarus effect?" Kadu pressed. "The simplest explanation? Every human has dormant capabilities: psychokinesis, telekinesis, energy manipulation, locked within our genetic code. Ancient abilities suppressed millennia ago." Dr. Valtar moved to a control panel. "We believe an advanced species visited Earth in prehistoric times and modified our ancestors to remove these abilities, making us easier to control." "Are you saying humans were engineered to be weaker?" Voss asked incredulously. "Not engineered. Modified. Limited." Admiral Thorne's expression darkened. "The Vrexians have been monitoring us for centuries, watching for signs we might break through those limitations. Dr. Nex finally found the key, a way to unlock these dormant abilities. Dr. Valtar activated a holographic display showing human DNA strands with certain sections highlighted. We call it the Prometheus sequence, a dormant genetic pattern that, when activated, allows consciousness to interact directly with quantum reality." "And you can trigger this sequence?" Kadu asked. "We've successfully activated it in 12 test subjects so far," Thorne replied. "But the process is dangerous. We lose nearly 40%. "Lose?" Voss's voice sharpened. "Their minds can't handle the sudden expansion of consciousness," Dr. Valtar explained clinically. "But those who survive manifest abilities beyond anything you can imagine." A door at the far end of the chamber opened, revealing a young man in a simple grey uniform. With casual grace, he raised his hand, and every loose object in the room suddenly floated upward. "Commander Voss, Lieutenant Kadu," said Admiral Thorne as the objects gently settled back down. "Meet Specialist Orion Kith, the first of humanity's awakened defenders." The Hyperion platform housed 87 volunteers, the remains of a program that had been operating in absolute secrecy for decades. Admiral Thorne explained that 34 had already undergone the Prometheus activation with 12 survivors. Those survivors wore distinctive neural interfaces at their temples, thin silver bands that helped stabilize their newly awakened abilities. "We're running out of time," Dr. Valtar informed them as she led Voss and Kadu through a section where medical teams prepared new volunteers. "The Vrexians have accelerated their attacks. At this rate, all outer colonies will fall within 2 weeks." "Why haven't they hit Earth directly?" Voss asked. "They're methodical." "Eliminating our extended reach first," explained Specialist Kith, who had joined their tour. Up close, Voss noticed an unsettling luminescence in the young man's eyes, a faint glow that seemed to pulse with his heartbeat. "They want to isolate us completely before the final strike. And you think these awakened humans can actually stop them?" Kadu's skepticism was evident. In answer, Kith gestured toward an observation window overlooking a massive testing chamber. Inside, a petite woman with close-cropped white hair stood in the center of the room. At a signal from a technician, several training drones descended from the ceiling, weapons primed. "Specialist Evren Sevic," Kith explained, "activated 3 weeks ago. The drones attacked simultaneously, firing non-lethal but painful projectiles. Evren didn't move, not physically. Instead, the air around her distorted, forming an almost imperceptible barrier. The projectiles stopped mid-flight, hovering for a moment before dropping harmlessly to the floor. Then, with a flick of her wrist, Evren sent a visible wave of force outward. The drones shattered instantly, components crashing against the reinforced walls. "That was at 10% of her capacity," Kith said quietly. Kadu's eyes widened. "How is this possible?" "Human consciousness has always had the capacity to influence quantum probability," Dr. Valter explained. "What appears as solid matter is mostly empty space, particles existing in states of probability rather than definite positions. Our modified ancestors could intuitively manipulate those probabilities, essentially rewriting local physics through focused intent." "And the Vrexians removed this ability?" Voss asked. Admiral Thorne nodded. "We believe they've done this to numerous species throughout the galaxy, genetic suppression as a form of control. But they missed something in humans. The capacity remained dormant rather than truly eliminated." An alarm suddenly blared through the facility. Admiral Thorne immediately activated a communication panel. "Report! Vrexian scout vessels detected." "Entering the solar system, Admiral," came the urgent response. 3 ships approaching from different vectors." "They've found us," Dr. Valter said, her clinical demeanor cracking slightly. "The attack on Earth begins." "How many awakened specialists are combat-ready?" Thorne demanded. 8, sir. The others still need time to stabilize their abilities." Thorne turned to Voss. "Commander, I'm temporarily reassigning the Dauntless to escort duty. You'll transport our active specialists to the lunar defense platform. It's time to reveal our hand." "With all due respect, Admiral," Voss objected, "the Dauntless is a warship, not a transport." "The Dauntless won't be fighting, Commander. You're just the delivery system." Thorne's expression was grim. "Your ship would last approximately 90 seconds against a Vrexian cruiser. Our specialists are the only weapons that matter now." Within the hour, the Dauntless departed with its precious cargo. 8 awakened humans who carried humanity's last hope. Voss observed them from the bridge as they settled into the ship's conference room, converted to accommodate their needs. "They look so ordinary," Kadu murmured beside him. "That's what the Vrexians are counting on," Voss replied, "that we're still what they engineered us to be." As the Dauntless accelerated toward Luna, the first Vrexian scout ship entered Earth orbit. The lunar defense platform, codenamed Artemis, had been built under the guise of a scientific research facility. In reality, it housed Earth's most advanced weapons systems, none of which Thorne believed would be particularly effective against the Vrexians. But the platform offered something more valuable: proximity to the enemy without the risk of civilian casualties. Think of it as a controlled battleground, Specialist Kith explained, as the 8 awakened specialists prepared for deployment. We need to demonstrate our capabilities without endangering Earth directly. Commander Voss watched the specialists prepare with a mixture of hope and doubt. Beyond Kith and Evren Sevic, the team included Tarek Nazemi, who could generate and manipulate electrical energy, twins Lyra and Ferro Callis, who shared a telepathic bond that amplified their individual abilities, Dasha Korvik, whose talent involved manipulating gravitational forces, Wexler Nash, who could perceive and navigate possible futures, and Zinnia Ver, whose skills remained mysterious even to her colleagues. They've had minimal training, Voss noted to Kadu as they observed from the shuttle bay. Weeks at most. Quality over quantity, came a voice behind them. Zinnia Ver approached, her movements graceful despite the artificial gravity. Unlike the others, she wore no neural stabilizer at her temples. Admiral Thorne requested I brief you properly before we engage. Brief us on what? Kadu asked. Your role. Zinnia's eyes, a disconcerting violet, seemed to see through them. The Dauntless will serve as our anchor point. While we engage the Vrexians, you must maintain position exactly 20 kilometers from the platform. That puts us directly in the line of fire, Voss objected. Yes, Zinnia's expression remained impassive. I need a fixed reference point in space-time. Your ship provides that. Before Voss could demand clarification, alarms blared throughout the Dauntless. The Vrexian scout ships had accelerated toward the moon. They've detected us, Zinnia said calmly, precisely as expected. The deployment proceeded with urgent efficiency. The specialists transferred to the Artemis platform while the Dauntless withdrew to the designated position. From the bridge, Voss and his crew watched as 3 crystalline Vrexian vessels approached, each one easily 4 times the size of Earth's largest battleship. Multiple energy signatures, reported the tactical officer. They're charging weapons. On the view screen, the Artemis platform looked pathetically small against the approaching threat. Then, 8 tiny figures emerged from an airlock, propelling themselves into space using nothing but the power of their minds. This is insanity, whispered Kadu. The Vrexian ships fired first, beams of coruscating energy that should have vaporized the human specialists instantly. Instead, the beams struck an invisible barrier several kilometers wide, dissipating into harmless light. Dear God, breathed Voss as he realized Evren Sevic, a woman barely 5 feet tall, was single-handedly deflecting firepower that could level mountains. The specialists moved in perfect coordination. Tarek Nazemi generated what appeared to be lightning in the vacuum of space, tendrils of electrical energy that wrapped around the nearest Vrexian vessel, causing its crystalline structure to vibrate dangerously. The Callis twins moved in tandem, creating distortions in space-time that slowed the second vessel's advance to a crawl. But it was Zinnia Ver who demonstrated why the Vrexians had been right to fear humanity's potential. Positioned directly between the Dauntless and the Artemis platform, she raised both hands toward the third and largest alien ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to fold. The Vrexian vessel didn't explode or break apart. It simply ceased to exist in this dimension. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, leaving nothing but scattered particles that quickly dispersed in the vacuum. She removed it from existence, Kadu said, her voice barely audible. The remaining Vrexian ships immediately changed tactics. The one entangled in Nazemi's electrical web attempted to retreat, while the time-slowed vessel fired desperately at the human specialists. Neither succeeded. Working together, Dasha Korvik and Wexler Nash created a gravitational anomaly that crushed the time-slowed vessel into a sphere no larger than a shuttlecraft. The final vessel never managed to escape. Kith, who had been observing rather than directly engaging, finally demonstrated his ability, reaching out with his mind to seemingly touch the very atomic structure of the alien ship. Where his influence spread, the crystalline material simply disintegrated. In less than 15 minutes, 3 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy had been utterly destroyed by 8 humans floating in space. "Send the recording," Voss ordered, his voice steady despite his shock. "Transmit the entire engagement to Admiral Thorne. Earth needs to see what happened here." As the specialist returned to the Artemis platform, Voss understood they had just changed the course of human history. The question was whether the Vrexians would retreat or respond with everything they had. The footage from Luna spread across Earth like wildfire. Humans awakening dormant abilities, defeating seemingly invincible aliens. It sounded like fiction, yet the evidence was irrefutable. Fear mingled with hope as humanity glimpsed its potential future. Within 48 hours, the Vrexians' response. "He came, 36 ships," Admiral Thorne announced grimly during an emergency conference aboard the Hyperion platform. The holographic display showed the Vrexian armada assembling at the edge of the solar system, including what appears to be their command vessel. Commander Voss studied the formation. "They're positioning to hit Earth directly. No more colony strikes. We've forced their hand," said Dr. Walter. "They understand now that each day gives us more opportunity to awaken more specialists." Indeed, the Prometheus activation program had accelerated dramatically. Hundreds of volunteers had come forward after seeing the lunar battle. The success rate had improved to 70% survival as Dr. Valtar refined the process. But even so, awakening enough specialists to counter 36 warships seemed impossible within the time frame. "Our original 8 need rest," Kadu pointed out. "Especially Specialist Ver. Whatever she did out there nearly killed her." Zinnia Ver had collapsed immediately after the battle, her body temperature dropping to near-fatal levels. The dimensional manipulation she'd performed had extracted a terrible physical toll. "We have 22 combat-ready specialists," Thorne replied. "Not enough for a direct confrontation." "Then we change the battlefield," said a new voice. All eyes turned to Specialist Kith, who had entered silently. His appearance had subtly changed. Since the lunar battle, his eyes now permanently luminescent, his movements almost too precise to be human. "What do you mean?" Voss asked. "The Vrexians believe they understand human limitations," Kith explained. "They've studied us for centuries, after all, but they've never seen humans operating at our true potential with multiple awakened specialists working in concert." "What are you suggesting?" Thorne asked. "Amplification." Kith's glowing eyes fixed on Dr. Valtar. "You've theorized that awakened specialists could boost each other's abilities through synchronized consciousness." Dr. Valtar nodded slowly. "The harmonic confluence theory, but it's never been tested. The neural load could be catastrophic." "We don't have a choice." Kith's voice was eerily calm. "Either we risk everything now, or we watch Earth burn." The plan that emerged was audacious to the point of madness. While Earth's conventional forces would engage the Vrexian fleet in a holding action, the awakened specialists would attempt something unprecedented, a linked consciousness state that could potentially amplify their abilities exponentially. The UNES Dauntless would again play a crucial role, carrying the specialists to a position where they could affect the entire battlefield. Additional specialists would remain planetside to attempt to project a defensive shield around the most populated areas should the space-based strategy fail. As preparations accelerated, Voss found Specialist Ver in the observation deck, staring at the distant stars. Though still recovering, she had insisted on participating in the final battle. "You know this might be a one-way mission," Voss said, standing beside her. "All existence is temporary, Commander," she replied without looking at him. "What matters is whether we use our brief time meaningfully." That's surprisingly philosophical for a living weapon. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Is that how you see us? As weapons? Isn't that what you are?" "No." Now she turned to face him. "We're just humans who remembered what we were always meant to be. The Vrexians didn't make us weaker. They made us forget our strength." "There's a difference." Voss studied her pale face. "Can you really win this? 36 ships, including their command vessel." "I don't know," she admitted. "But I know this. The Vrexians fear us for a reason. Whatever happens tomorrow, Earth will never be the same." As the Dauntless prepared for departure, the first Vrexian ships entered Mars orbit. The final countdown had begun. The Vrexian armada advanced with methodical precision. Earth's combined defense fleet, hastily assembled from every military vessel in the system, moved to intercept, though everyone understood it was merely buying time. Conventional weapons could no more stop the Vrexians than a paper wall could stop a tsunami. Aboard the Dauntless, positioned just beyond the asteroid belt, 22 awakened specialists prepared for humanity's final stand. They had formed a circle in the ship's cargo bay, the largest open space available. At the center stood Orion Kith and Zinnia Ver, the two most powerful awakened humans. Commander Voss observed from a safe distance, alongside Lieutenant Kadu and a medical team standing by for whatever aftermath might follow. "Neural synchronization beginning," reported Dr. Walter through the comm system from her monitoring station. Brainwave patterns aligning. The specialists had removed their neural stabilizers. Without those safeguards, their abilities could fluctuate dangerously, but also reach their full potential. As they joined hands, a subtle luminescence similar to Kith's eyes began to emanate from their skin. "Is that radiation?" Kadu whispered. "Quantum resonance," corrected Dr. Valtar over the comm. "They're beginning to influence the fundamental nature of reality in their immediate vicinity." The glow intensified, spreading outward from the circle in waves that passed harmlessly through solid matter. The ship's sensors struggled to interpret the phenomenon, reporting impossible readings of space-time distortions throughout the Dauntless. "The Vrexian fleet has engaged our defensive line," Thorne's voice announced through the command channel. "Earth forces sustaining heavy casualties." The specialists showed no reaction to the news. Their eyes had closed, their breathing synchronized. The luminescence continued to build, until Voss had to shield his eyes. "Something's happening," Kadu said urgently, pointing to the view screen showing the battle near Earth. The space between the Dauntless and the distant battlefield seemed to ripple, as though reality itself had become fluid. The ripples expanded, outward, washing over the Vrexian ships like an invisible tide. Where they passed, the crystalline vessels began to lose cohesion, their perfect structures developing fractures that spread with increasing speed. "They're altering the quantum foundation of Vrexian technology," Dr. Walter explained, her voice filled with scientific wonder. "Changing the very rules that allow their ships to function." The effect was catastrophic for the alien fleet. 15 vessels shattered simultaneously, their exotic materials unable to maintain structural integrity. The others began desperate evasive maneuvers, but the quantum disruption pursued them relentlessly. On the cargo deck, blood had begun to trickle from the specialists' eyes and ears. Their bodies trembled with the strain of maintaining the unprecedented confluence of power. "They can't keep this up," the chief medical officer warned. "Their neural pathways are burning out." "Look!" Kadu pointed again to the view screen. The Vrexian command ship, a massive crystalline structure at least twice the size of any other vessel, had begun to emit pulses of its own. The alien counterattack manifested as waves of distortion that clashed with the human-generated field. They have their own version of awakened beings, Walter realized. They've been hiding their true capabilities. The specialists' circle tightened as they felt the resistance. Kith and Ver raised their joined hands toward the ceiling, channeling the group's collective power. The glow surrounding them intensified to near blinding levels. Energy readings off the scale, reported the dauntless science officer. Whatever they're doing, it's beyond our ability to measure. In space, the clash of quantum forces created visible distortions, reality itself bending and warping as two fundamentally different approaches to manipulating the universe collided. For several minutes, neither seemed to gain advantage. Then, Specialist Ver spoke, her voice somehow resonating from everywhere at once. "We understand now." The words carried a weight that seemed to press Voss against the wall. Kadu grabbed his arm to steady herself. "We see what they did to us, to all sapient species. The suppression, the limitations." Ver's voice grew stronger. "We see the pattern in creation itself." The specialists moved in perfect unison, their circle expanding slightly as they raised their arms. The luminescence coalesced into a focused beam that shot from the Dauntless toward the distant battle. When it reached the Vrexian command ship, reality simply reopened. There was no explosion, no dramatic destruction. Instead, the command ship and its escorts seemed to unfold like origami reverting to flat paper. Their complex structures collapsed not into debris, but into pure energy that dissipated harmoniously into the vacuum. As suddenly as it had begun, the quantum light emanating from the specialists extinguished. They collapsed to the deck in perfect unison, unconscious but alive. The battle for Earth was over. In the silence that followed, Voss helped the medical team tend to the fallen specialists. None had died, though all showed signs of extreme neural stress. "Did we win?" Kadu asked softly. "I think we did more than win," Voss replied, looking at Ver's peaceful face. "I think we evolved." 3 months later, Commander Voss stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Unity station in Earth orbit. Beside him, Zinnia Ver watched shuttles arriving from across the solar system and beyond, representatives from the surviving colonies and, more significantly, from 7 previously unknown alien civilizations who had reached out after the Vrexian defeat. "They were all modified by the Vrexians," Ver explained, "all limited, controlled. When we broke free, we created a resonance that rippled across the galaxy, awakening others. Is that why they've come? To learn from us? To learn with us?" Ver turned to him, her violet eyes now permanently luminescent like Kith's. "What we did wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about remembering what consciousness is truly capable of." Beyond the viewport, Earth glowed blue and green, no longer just humanity's cradle, but the birthplace of a new understanding of reality itself. The dormant power had awakened, and with it humanity's true place in the cosmos. "What happens now?" Voss asked. Ver smiled, her gaze turning to the stars beyond. "Now? Now we remember how to create rather than destroy. We remember what it means to be truly awake." As if in response, a subtle luminescence began to spread across Earth's night side, millions of awakened minds beginning to glow with the same quantum resonance the specialists had pioneered. Humanity wasn't just fighting. Back it was transforming.